going. But yeah, dude, thanks for jumping on to do this. This is something that's like come up on a couple of client calls, and I've got a little taste of it, but I'm like, anytime I can dig into an expert brain like yours and just like, what's the deal with this? Because this is not like, I'm not Mr. Like, let's figure out the back end tech of your marketing, but I
Yeah.
like to be a really good resource for my clients. Like at the end of the day, I want people to know, like, I can call Troy and he's either going to know or he's going to be able to steer me in the right direction. I want to be that, like that center, that hub of the spoke. Right. And so it's like, well, I need to know about these kind of things. And so that's why I hit you up to see about, you coming on and educating me on this so I can at least talk knowledgeably about it before I pass the
Yeah.
baton off to like someone like you guys to be like, hey, go fix this for this practice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thanks for jumping on. I did decide like, yo, let's bring some other folks on. So I'm not having to re-explain this thing over and over. So I know we've got some folks, 15 people on already, so which is great. And more
Awesome.
like coming on by the second. This is awesome. All right, good. Gonna have a nice little group here. So look, I got a list of questions and I'm just gonna rip through these.
Perfect.
If there's something that I skip and you're like, yo, we need to talk about this, let me know.
Okay.
If you say something that I'm like, ooh, let's dig into that, then we'll do it. But hopefully here at the end of this, I and then everybody listening in will have a pretty good knowledge of what the heck's going on and what they need to do to cover their butts. Because we all know there's 1,000 things to be dealing with in the practice, and like worrying about lawyers calling you with BS, like lawsuits and crap, it certainly shouldn't be one of them, especially not for this kind of stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
anybody that's listening, yeah, people are still jumping on. This is awesome. So for anybody that's listening, I think the chat's on, should be on. Somebody test it. I don't know. But you can, if you've got a question or you want either of us to expand on anything, type it in. If we got time at the end, we'll get into that. All right. So just a quick little, Mike raised his hand. Cool. All right, good. Put that down. Yeah, thanks, Mike. I guess that's working. So just put stuff in the chat for whatever you guys want to ask in the chat. Quick intro for anybody who maybe doesn't know me that well or maybe doesn't know Loryn that well. I'm Troy Cole, Logical Consulting down here in Fort Worth, Texas. I've been in the marketing and sales coaching game for refractive surgeons and elective practices for 20 years now. And we really focus on our main focus right now is coaching on sales and communications for practices. How do you create a great customer experience through our communication, through our sales process? That's not smarmy. It's not like, it's not icky, but we're actually doing customer service in a way that helps you sell and book more surgeries. Loryn, I'm in Texas and it's like 10 degrees right now, which is stupid. Loryn's in California. I'm sure it's regular, nice, sunny 72 out there. But Loryn, give me like a quick little bio for anyone watching that maybe hasn't met you yet.
Okay. Yeah, it's beautiful here. I'm not gonna lie. It's been cold, but it's beautiful. So similar to Troy, I have been in digital marketing for about 20 years, and I own an agency. We work specifically with ophthalmology and plastic surgery practices. We do website development, SEO, email marketing, paid search, paid social, all the things when it comes to digital marketing. And yeah, I always joke about it because when I first started doing this, I used to have to convince doctors that they should, number one, have a website and check their email for
Yeah,
leads, and
right.
number two, that they didn't need a yellow page ad anymore. And now we're here dealing with cookies and all the things. So been a come a long way. It's been a long journey.
Love it, man. Yeah, you guys do really good work. We have several mutual clients with Silver, and I mean, they're just rock stars. So I knew bringing Loryn on here, they have researched all this, they've dug into it, and she's going to educate all of us on these things. So Mike just said that the chat is disabled, but the Q&A is on. So just use the Q&A if you've got a question or a comment. All right. Neither of us are lawyers. I'm going to go ahead and preface that right now. I'm not a lawyer. You're not a lawyer, right? You're not a lawyer? No.
Definitely
All right,
not.
cool. Neither one of us are lawyers. So this is not legal advice. Okay. This is us having looked at these things. Loryn's team looked at all these things, talked to practices that have dealt with it. Um, I don't, yeah, maybe you guys have gotten like legal input from different folks. I know you guys do a ton of due diligence on these things, but like we're not lawyers. This is not legal advice, but it is like, here's what you need to do to stay out of trouble. All right. I'm going to talk to Loryn. I'm going to grill her. If you got questions, post them in the chat. Let's get rolling. Groundwork. So Loryn, some people on here are marketers, some people are not, some people deal with the website stuff like you guys do, some don't. So like, I just want to like make sure I understand and anybody listening understands before we start getting into all this cookie stuff. Like, what is a cookie?
Yeah, it's so funny because I read your email newsletter this morning about Susan's favorite molasses cookies from Susie Cakes, and and just last night, the funniest thing happened. I was actually at dinner with my family, and my husband. I work with my husband. He does what I do, and I was like, what is an easy way to explain what cookies are and like digital tracking kind of cookies. And before Brian could answer, my 9-year-old daughter, like she chimes in with the most confident, Mom, cookies are round, crunchy, delicious treats. Duh. And I'm just like, oh my God, I like
Duh.
started laughing. So it was very funny timing with the email that you sent this morning from about Susan. But um so to kind of like simplify it, if we're talking about whether it's like Susan's favorite cookies or digital cookies, it what it basically comes down to are preferences and just remembering what people like. So just like Susie's Cakes now knows that your wife loves molasses cookies. Digital cookies essentially help us to, as like from a website perspective, remember important things about your website visitors.
Okay.
So that's basically what they do. And to kind of like break it down even more simply, a digital cookie is it basically kind of gives your website visitor a name tag and helps us see what pages of the website they went to, if they filled out a form, if they've come back, maybe for e-com, like your sign in or your shopping cart, things like that.
Mhm. So, and some people might be listening to this call and they're like, "Oh, that sounds awesome. We should do that." But I mean, what percentage of websites have cookies on them, whether they know it or not? Like all of them, basically.
If you have Google Analytics
Hmm.
tracking on your website, or if you have even like, there's a lot of hidden areas where cookies exist. So, like if you have a Google map embedded on your site,
Yeah.
or even a YouTube video embedded on your site,
Oh,
all of
really?
those tools are actually, yes,
Huh.
all of
Okay.
those tools are actually collecting data.
That's
So
good.
you might not even realize that you have it on there.
That's good. Yeah. So it's like they're there. It would almost be impossible to avoid them at this point. If you're doing
Pretty
any kind of modern website, you're gonna have them whether on purpose or just by happenstance based on what you're doing.
most likely.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
And then and this is something like this technology's been around for a while, right? Like, I mean, it's improved over time in how it's utilized and tracking, but like cookies have been around for years. I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I was actually looking at it last night. So they've been around since 1994,
Okay.
and
So like
and they
as long as
for
the
a
internet.
long time. Yeah, and
Okay.
and again, the intent was to keep um, information about your web visitors, and really it was just very very basic information.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, we have advertising, companies like Google and Meta and all of
Mhm.
these companies that have exploited cookies. So it's kind of like a basic web cookie would just track somebody coming in and visiting your website, where some of these more aggressive cookies are actually not only tracking your website visitors, but once they drop the cookie on your visitor, they're tracking where else they go on the
Mhm.
web. And that's where you get these creepy ads where you're like, I was just talking about this and now I'm seeing it here. I don't even know
Yes.
how it got there. That's cookie tracking, essentially.
Okay. So is that the issue? Like, what's changed in this landscape that, cookies, they've been around for 30 years. We've all been using them. I've never had a client have an issue with the cookie. Doesn't sound like you have really either up until recently. So is that what's changed? Is that now there's more like, I don't know if cross pollination is the right word, but it sounds like some of the data that you are capturing is now leaking out to other websites and other things. Like, is that the issue?
Yes, it's
Okay.
gotten extremely invasive
Mhm.
on people's privacy. And most people don't realize they know that it's creepy that the ads are showing up, but they don't realize the extent to which that data has been being used by
Mhm.
different companies and really being exploited and sold, essentially.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so whenever you get an email, generally where it's some business stating that they're updating their privacy policy or their terms of use, it's
Uh-huh.
usually because they're trying to protect themselves from a privacy standpoint. And in Europe, it's very, very strict.
Mhm.
Um, in the United States, it's starting to get more strict, and there's a lot of uncertainty in like the laws aren't clear. Every state is different. And so that's kind of what's causing this. And just to kind of give you like a little bit um, a more context to this. So do you remember back in 2021 when there were like a ton of medical practices that were getting sued for ADA compliance?
Yep. Yep.
So basically, there were like, I mean, I personally had four practices in that year that all got served, two of which were served by the same plaintiff who lived, one was in LA and one was in San Diego. So we know it wasn't anybody truly being harmed by ADA,
Mhm.
compliance. It was literally just these like frivolous lawsuits where um, you know, there were like groups of attorneys that were able to exploit the law. And that's basically kind of what I saw happening here. I mean, even in New York, there was one firm in New York that filed over 1,000 cases in 1 year to small and medium-sized businesses for the ADA thing. So it was a really big deal. And as a digital marketer, all of a sudden it was like I was getting, I got a lawsuit, I got a lawsuit. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So we had to we had to navigate that. So I started hearing about privacy lawsuits this last year, just in the beginning of 2025. And my stomach felt like it just dropped because it felt like deja vu. And the biggest difference is instead of like lawyers looking for like screen reader issues or trying to figure out if somebody wasn't ADA compliant. Now what they're doing is they're checking to see if you have proper cookie consent, if you have updated privacy notices, if you have proper data disclosures. And um of course my gut, I trust my gut when it tells me something's going on. And I actually do work with a practice who got sued for having a Facebook meta pixel on their website. They ended up settling out the case for $600,000. And it's beyond me. But this is the kind of nightmare scenario that keeps me up at night because you've got all of these, like you said, all of these medical practices who are doing their best, doing their surgeries, keeping up with all of their other education. And then these lawsuits kind of just come up from underneath them. They don't realize there's a problem until it's too late. Very similar to what happened with the ADA.
That's crazy. All right. So I mean, there's a Facebook pixel, which everybody
Yes,
has on their site.
exactly. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So, all right. So this kind of stuff's coming up. You said it's related to, uh, I mean, just clarify this for me because you said it was related to like making sure you have like disclosures and privacy policy updates and all this. And so was it the fact that this practice had the Facebook pixel and then didn't have the proper privacy, whatever, whatever? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So the cookie goes, somebody visits your site, cookie goes on there, they leave, they go around the internet. That's gotten more aggressive. And so some like, is this, I guess I should ask this, like, is there a new law that's been put into place that is now like, because it's gotten so aggressive, this law passed or like what is changing the legal landscape that this is starting to happen and gain traction?
Yeah. So every state has different privacy laws.
Uh-huh.
California, one of the more strict states,
Yeah.
California, New York, Washington State. But then even states like Texas, who,
Mhm.
generally aren't as that way, leaning that way, also the privacy laws are changing, and they're changing daily. So it's really confusing because, I have some practices that they border certain states, and the laws are different between states.
Oh yeah, but you could be targeting in that other state.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is like a state to state thing, and these things are changing either based on laws being passed or maybe case law that's happening,
Yep.
and so it's this kind of wild west of the legal system catching up to the technology, which always happens.
Yep.
Okay, so uh, so is it? I mean, what's the solution? Is it like don't do cookies anymore? Take all this off your website? Because I know at one point, I think we had a mutual client where you were like, "Yo, until we get this resolved, we should turn all these things off." And of course, that negatively
Yeah.
affects marketing, but it's like I don't want to negatively affect your bank account by you getting sued either, right? So it's like you were looking out for the client, which is great. But like, what is the perfect mix of like, do we have no cookies, or you have cookies and you have XYZ other things? Like, what is the solution?
Yeah. So, when I started realizing that this was a thing, I took a very aggressive approach with Silver, and we basically took all Google Analytics, Facebook pixels, all the main culprits off of our clients' websites, and until I knew how to handle it. And it was a big deal because I was literally flying blind from a marketing standpoint. Like, that data helps guide your marketing decisions. It helps you get in front of the right people. It was really hard. It was a hard time. And I hired a privacy, basically an attorney that specializes in privacy.
Nice.
And
Okay.
and so she supplied us with guidance. Again, it was very like loose because it was the guidance that applies in California might not apply to Texas, and so on and so forth. But essentially, it's not as bad as you think it is. You basically just need to tell people that you are tracking them and give them an opportunity to opt out of tracking. So there's three main things that need to happen. You need to update your privacy policy. You need to update your terms of use and these are both pages on your website, typically found on the footer of a website. And you need to turn on a cookie management software tool. With the privacy policy and the terms of use, it's very important that you don't just copy and paste what other people have from their websites. You actually should have your legal counsel review your like kind of a general privacy policy in terms of use to make sure that it's applicable to your business. Because again, to layer on the complexity of this, depending on how big your business is, you actually have different privacy regulations that you need to adhere to. So legal counsel is a must. And then there's a ton of different cookie tools. So there's Cookie Yes, which is the one that we use at Silver. There's another big one called OneTrust. And you just basically need to set up the tool, put it on your site, and make sure it's set up right. Um, this is also like a slippery slope because it can get really expensive. So I looked into OneTrust, and even just trying to meet with a consultant to have them guide us on what to use, that alone was $1,500 per domain. So it was like a crazy amount of money. We went with Cookie Yes. Cookie Yes does have free options. They have a $10 a month option. We um, we offer our customers the $55 a month option, and then we manage it and set it up for them, because just setting it up, again, it's like you have to kind of know how strict do we need to adhere to GDPR, which is like, the standard in Europe,
Mhm.
or can we be a little bit looser and not be so crazy with the tracking, because the tighter the regulation, the less data you're going to get when you turn it on.
Okay. All right. Hang on. So what I want to take a step back. You said three things: update your privacy policy, update terms of service,
Mhm.
and then turn on some kind of cookie management tool. All
Yes.
right. So with the whole like reach out to your legal counsel and have them review it, that also sounds like it could get expensive. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But like you
Yes.
said, you reached out to a specific privacy attorney that specializes in this. And look, this I'm just
Yes.
ignorant on some of these things. Like, does the attorney for ABC Eye Center, like, if you're like, hey, I need you to review this and make sure our butts are covered, are they going to be like, know exactly what to do? Or do we need to get somebody more
Unfortunately,
specialized
no.
involved to do this?
Um, I feel like
In your
very
opinion, this is
soon
not
a
legal
lot of
advice. In your opinion.
yeah, this is my opinion, but I feel like there's enough of this privacy stuff that's happening where it's clearly an issue and
Okay,
attorneys are more aware of it than they were this time last year.
cool. That makes
Yeah, and we drafted kind of like a templated privacy policy in terms of use that is acceptable in the state of California, which
mhm.
is a more aggressive state. And basically, we're able to kind of pass that documentation over and say, hey, just have your attorney like put some lines through this and modify it so that we know we're compliant, but you're not paying like $1,500 for them to author the document for you.
Yeah, that sounds way better.
Yeah.
Okay. And look, it seems like if you were going to use whatever the strictest state was, that would cover you here in Texas for the most part, probably. I mean, I'm not saying don't have them review it, but like if you're practicing in Texas and you know it's a little bit looser than California, then you know you're at least starting with like, well, this is like super double bulletproof and we only need like single bulletproof. I
Yeah.
mean, like the laws would vary from like strict to less strict, right? They wouldn't be like strict and then also like super weird but not strict, right?
Yeah, that's what
Or
I've
no?
that's what I've learned so far.
Okay.
It's California is the most strict, and most of the practices that we work with utilized the kind of templates that we had
Mhm.
and just said, I'm good with this.
Okay.
Obviously, we know the cost of what it could be if you aren't compliant.
Yeah.
So it's a risk. And from my standpoint as a business owner, my requirement is just saying you as a practice, you need to tell me, hey, I understand. I'm gonna just have you use this kind of templated
Yeah.
version. And the only thing I would do is I would try to, set some sort of reminder to have your legal team just check on the any changes that have happened over the last year. That's the guidance I got was every year just kind of see are we still compliant?
Okay.
Just because it's changing so quickly.
Okay. And look, can you give me like 30 seconds or 60 on the difference between privacy policy and terms of service?
Yeah, and I don't fully 100% um like know the big differences. I know for sure on the privacy policy, you're telling people we're tracking you if you're, this age to this age. We're also going to email you and we're going to text you. And
Uh-huh.
so for anybody over the last 2 years, the other thing that's gotten really strict is, marketing through text.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of practices that have had their text marketing number turned off because they weren't compliant because they didn't have that number on their privacy policy all related. So
Okay.
your privacy policy basically is stating, we are tracking you. This is what we do with your data. We are going to text you. This is how you opt out, all of those things. Terms of use is, hey, you're using our website. And by using our website, you agree to our terms, essentially.
Mhm.
So they're two slightly different pieces, but it's important to have them both for some reason. I'm not 100% sure why it can't just be one.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, so walk me through. Let's talk about the cookie. Yes, is what you're saying. Two words, cookie, and then the word yes is in no yes, like YES, right? Okay.
Correct.
So, and that sounds like it's a very affordable solution relative to the other ones you guys have looked at. How how does that like what is that? How does it work?
So it's anytime you visit a website, you get that little pop-up that says, we're tracking you, accept or decline.
Right.
That's a cookie software management tool. And it's pretty much everywhere you go now
Yeah.
online. So
So it's one of
yep.
those. And so, and
Yep.
Link just sent in a message. He was asking, like, do you still get analytics data? Like, what data can you still get if you've got that on the website?
So that's a wonderful question. it depends on how strict you want to be. And this is kind of what I was saying earlier about like how loose or how strict you want to be.
Yeah.
When you first put like a cookie software tool on your site, if you
Uh,
have it set to the GDPR standards, you're not going to get any data at all because you're not going to collect any data until somebody specifically says accept. And in my experience watching the stats, people just ignore it. They close out the cookie, the little cookie pop-up, and then they don't accept. So you literally have zero data, which is almost as bad as the position I was in when I took all the data off. Now, again, I'm not an attorney, and these things could change, but we have set up ours in such a way where legally we just have to tell people we're tracking them. We don't have to turn off the tracking until they opt in. So we have it set in a way where we're basically, it's like, hey, we're tracking you. And there is a link to adjust the settings, but we just have a little okay button in addition to that that just acknowledges it so that the pop-up goes away. And that has helped tremendously.
okay. And so if that's the case, then all the cookies fire, all the data's collected, things
Yeah.
run as normal, unless somebody
Yeah.
gets in there and says,
Yeah.
no, don't, or turn these off or whatever. All right.
Yeah. And if laws change, because again, right now we simply just have to tell people we're tracking them because most of the medical practices we work with are not giant corporations, you know.
Mhm.
So our laws are a bit looser where we just have to tell people we're tracking them. If it changes, we're going to have to go towards a more strict approach and we'll lose more data.
Okay. And as far as, sorry, I just took a bite of soup. I'm eating my lunch. As far as setting this up and implementing it, like, is it complicated? Is it hard? Is it push button? Like,
Um, It's 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 a layered it's a little bit complicated. Like I would work with your agency to do it. I would and definitely, you know, make sure that your agency is aware that they should be having privacy stuff on your site, but I would have somebody help you set it up just because of the settings. When I first rolled it out, like the data was not there, and so we had to adjust it.
ah. So you wouldn't kick this over to your like marketing coordinator in office and be like, hey, go to this website and download this and put it on our site.
No.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's good to know. Um, what else should I be asking you? I mean, I feel like I've got a pretty good sense for what's going on, what the issues are, and then what the solutions are. Is there anything else that I haven't covered with you?
I don't think so. I feel
Okay.
like we covered most of it as well.
Well, like, tell me, first of all, would you, obviously you're doing this for your clients. Will you do it for other practices that maybe aren't working with you guys on other digital marketing things? Like, is this a service you
Yeah,
sell on its own?
we don't, I mean, it's not really something that we like, you know, push out there and sell, but if a practice wants, if a practice would like us to set this up for them, we can.
Okay.
Um, so we would basically just, you know, kind of the same thing. We would provide you with our kind of templated privacy policy terms of use, ask that you have your legal counsel sign off on it.
Yeah.
And then we would need access to the website so we could go in and make those updates and
Uh-huh.
then turn on the cookie tracking tool.
Okay. Awesome. So appreciate you doing that because I've got several practices that probably need this and I don't want to figure it out. And I don't want them trying to figure it out. Right. Like that's, um, so that makes sense. Crawford sent in a question. How does server side tracking fit into this? I don't know what that means.
Ooh, that's a good question. And you know what? I'm not 100% sure, but cookies are supposed to go away. Um, they were
Okay.
supposed to go away last year, but they're still here. Like Google's still trying to figure out a way to still track people, I think.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not 100% sure on the difference between the server side tracking and browser tracking. I'm sorry.
Okay. What do you mean go away?
So it's supposed to be a cookieless, the internet's supposed to be a cookieless space, where we're not having, you know, this kind of data being tracked. But they, you know, the big entities are still going to find a way around it. It's just trying to play in those playgrounds as
Okay.
things progress and move forward.
So is it, I mean, it's worth it to still do these things versus just like, well, if there's not going to be any cookies, then just take them off.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we will find ways around it. So like one of the ways that I'm starting to kind of see things shift, for example, are um, having some sort of CRM solution that can communicate to Google and to Facebook and to different entities to basically say, okay, yeah, you sent us website traffic and we actually got a lead. And then that CRM actually pushes data back to Google to let them know that we got the lead. So it's not the website that's providing the data, it's like a
Mhm.
CRM instead.
Oh, okay. And so and that's all being passed around securely, kind of behind the scenes, right? Like,
Yeah.
is that a good analogy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like there's connections that you can make between Google Ads and like for example like Line or businesses that use Go High Level. Those types of those two in particular I know for sure can pass data back and forth.
Okay. All right. All right. Any other questions from the chat? Put them in there. Here's a couple. Mike said, would schedule and appointment type forms where patient data would be entered just need to be mentioned in the privacy policy?
Ooh, I don't know. I would definitely ask your attorney about that one or a legal team just because you brought that up and I'm really glad you brought that up. So, there one of my clients brought to my attention an ad that they got served on Facebook um, from a legal firm in New York targeting a med spa in New York, and the branding on the ad looked exactly like the med spa's branding, and it said in the ad copy, have you ever scheduled online with this med spa? If you have, contact us because your privacy may have been breached. So they're specifically targeting book online and they're specifically targeting this med spa. It's the same thing I was talking about. It's just attorneys kind of, trying to capitalize on the opportunity. But I would be very careful about that. Like, there's tools like Next Patient and other tools we know for sure are HIPAA compliant. And even Next Patient now, if you sign up with Next Patient, they don't push Book Online back to Google Analytics because of all of this. So
Hmm,
you have to be really careful.
good info.
I hope that answered the question.
All right. And then Cindy Wong, what's up, Cindy? Sent over tide may be turning in businesses after key California court decision website tracking cases. I guess this is from like a week ago. Have you seen this?
No.
I'll share my screen real quick. I mean, it looks pretty dense, but we can, look at it for a minute or two. And
Cool.
um, this might be familiar to you or along the same lines of what we're talking about. Find
Yeah.
my screen share. Hold on.
There's
Share.
definitely been a couple of big lawsuits that have been in the favor of like local businesses, hospital systems, which are a good sign.
Okay. All right. Tide may be turning in businesses' favor after key California court decisions, website tracking cases. Two recent court decisions have provided businesses with long-awaited clarity on the reach of the California Invasion of Privacy Act. That must be one of y'all's super awesome laws that you have out there in California. And begin to redefine digital privacy litigation, digital wiretapping litigation trend. I don't think I have not seen this. It doesn't sound like Loryn's seen this. I don't think we're gonna solve it here in the next 5 minutes on this call. But
I mean, this would be great though. If lawyers aren't able to win these cases, then it will just discourage them from these frivolous lawsuits.
yeah,
You know,
yep, 100%. All right, good. Um, I'll send this over to you, Loryn. You can take a look at
oh,
it. If you've got anything, you
yeah,
can
that'd
let
be
me know.
great.
All right. And then let's see, one more. No, I took care of that one. All right. If somebody wants to hit you up for your templates and for setting up the cookie yes thing, and they're just like, they want to do that, do you want
Yep.
me to just have them email you or what?
Yeah, or just you can go to it's SILVR Agency and we spell it SILVR. We left the E out of it. So SILVR agency.com. And or you can email me, Loryn at silversocial.com. And happy to, hop on the phone, help you understand, what you might need to update.
That's her email. You can hit up Loryn. Obviously, she's really, really smart and nice to talk to. And they're straight shooters, man. Like, there's a lot of people in this business who I don't know, and just in marketing in general, that you're just like, come on, man. But like, so the silver folks, they'll tell you straight up what you need to do. They're not hiding anything. They don't black box anything. Like, they're just good people to work with, and they got a really, really strong team over there on the marketing side, and then obviously like making sure their clients are taken care of. So I'm not, this isn't me shilling for silver. I don't get anything whether you work with them or not. But I do like having good recommendations for my clients, for good folks that they can go to and that they can trust. I try to be that for all of my clients and the practices that I work with and talk to and consult with, and people who reply to my emails, like whatever it is, man. I want you to know that I've got your back, which means that I'm also vetting and looking for resources for things like this that you can trust as well. And the Silver Crew is definitely one of those few groups that you can go to and know that you're getting straight shooters over there. So that is my endorsement of Silver. Loryn at Silver Social or silveragency.com. Is that what it was?
Yeah, website silveragency.com. Yeah.
Silveragency.com. No E in the silver, SILVR. All right. That's all I've got. I will, like I said, I've got a few clients that I think that we're not working on together necessarily, but that obviously need to get this taken care of. I will hit you up separately about that and we can figure out what we need to do. But yeah, thanks for taking the time. I mean, I know you're
Yeah.
busy running a big agency and you got a lot going on, but this was super helpful to me and to the many folks who tuned in. I think it was very beneficial. So Cindy said, thanks.
Thank you. I'm excited to read that article. So
Yep. I'll send it over to you. All right.
thank you for letting me join.
Yep.
Hopefully it was beneficial.
Yep. Thanks, Loryn. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.